What is going on, guys? It is Nate the Game Guy coming back with another video at hand, and today I'm going to give you guys my complete collector's and buying guide for the Hyperscan. This console is actually the very first console that I've completed the set for in my game room, and I know you guys won't be able to see right behind me, but that is where I keep my entire Hyperscan set. This console, unfortunately for it, was a total flop from 2006 to 2007, so it had a very short life cycle. In this guide, I'm going to be going over some of the history, the facts, things to look out for, things just in general to know about, all about the Hyperscan. So without further ado, let's jump right into this. Alright, so jumping right into the background and some of the history of the Hyperscan. The Hyperscan was a 7th generation console which only lasted from 2006 to 2007 and came out right after the Xbox 360 came out and before the Wii and PlayStation 3 would later come out that year. The console itself was originally made by Mattel, the toy company. In fact, the same toy company that created the Intellivision back in the 80s before Intellivision became its own brand. With the console itself, it was actually a pretty cool idea where you would buy the games, it would come with this deck of cards, you could buy booster packs with extra cards, and you would be able to use the cards to select your character, select different abilities, just different things that you would do throughout the game, and these cards would actually save stats and experience back onto the card. It was a very cool concept. Unfortunately, several issues came into play when it came with the console. Most people thought of the Hyperscan as a toy trying to be a game console that's not actually a game console, if that makes sense. And a lot of people do compare this to other like knockoff toy-based video game consoles such as V-Smile and the Leapster, and for good reason too. In fact, with some people that I've spoken to as to why they've asked me why I decided to collect for the Hyperscan, you know, I had the same mindset as the majority of people, that this thing isn't really a real video game console, it's just a toy trying to be a video game console. But there were two things that came into play which made me decide, hey, I'm actually going to jump in and buy this thing and complete the set for my collection. So the first reason why I bought this thing is, in my opinion, if Angry Video Game Nerd considers this console to be legitimate enough to have its own episode, that is a big reason right there. The second reason is too, the ESRB did in fact put ratings onto these games. So between the Angry Video Game Nerd putting this thing onto his show and the ESRB rating games for this console, that was definitive enough proof for me, okay, this thing is legitimate enough to be a video game console, hence why I decided to collect it. The other reason why I wanted to collect this game console was because at the time it was very cheap to collect for. I bought all 5 games for this game console for under $100, and I bought the system itself. Of course, a little over total was above $100, which I used to joke with many people after I completed the set. Try to name a game console where you can buy the entire library of video games for $100 and have the full set. I dare you, try to name a console where you can actually do that today. You just can't. And keep in mind too, with this console, when it was being launched in the 7th generation, it was competing with the 360, the Wii, and when this console jumped into the 7th generation, a lot of its graphics were very similar to Flash games, Super Nintendo games, early PlayStation 1 games, so there were quite a few things going against it too. Plus, it didn't help the fact that it was just not a very well-performing game console at all. Not only just the graphics, but it would also have horrendous loading times when it came with the games. Alright, so when it comes to consoles for the Hyperscan, there are no variants. There are literally no variants for the console itself. There's only one model of the console, and that's it. However, when it comes to the console's overall lifespan, there were two different types of bundles that came out with the console. There was the original bundle, which was obviously the console itself and the game X-Men, and then later down the line, there was the two-player package where it came with two controllers, the console, and X-Men again. So when it comes to actual variations of the consoles and packaging, there is not really a whole lot to talk about. So when it comes to accessories for the Hyperscan, there's not a whole lot to talk about. There are controllers, which are the exact same controller that came out in 2006 and was literally there since the end in 2007 when the Hyperscan officially was discontinued. Now, at least some bit of interesting details to talk about are the booster packs. Since this was a console that was trying to combine both video games and trading cards together, of course, they sold booster packs for each of the games, which could be purchased separately. And these booster packs allowed for different abilities, characters, just different perks you could get or traits you could have or whatever, right, for the different games. And every single game had a booster pack of its own, allowing the player to use more features when it came to playing the games for the Hyperscan. Now, when it comes to the games for the Hyperscan, there were only 5 games made for the console throughout its entire life cycle from 2006 to 2007. Only 5 games made because of how poorly the console performed. And these 5 games were Ben 10, Intergalactic Wrestling League, Marvel Superheroes, X-Men, and Spider-Man. There was nothing more and there was nothing less. Interestingly, when it came to the games, they would always come inside of these really nicely designed cardboard boxes. And these boxes were not meant to be the cases or the same type of cardboard casing as Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64. These boxes only serve the purpose of storing your contents inside from the store and opening them up once you got home and decided to play a game. Now, inside of these boxes, it literally only came with the instruction manual, your deck of cards, and your game, which was placed inside of a white paper sleeve. Now, for those that have ever paid attention to some portions of my collection, if there were any parts in any of my videos where it did show parts of my Hyperscan collection, you'll see that I keep my copy of X-Men inside of a empty DVD case. And that is for extra protection when I keep it inside of my game collection and to also help keep the contents more organized. Now, when it comes to things to look out for when purchasing the games, there's really only one thing to talk about, and that is the one rare game on the system, which is Spider-Man. Spider-Man was originally a Toys R Us exclusive game to be purchased back when the Hyperscan was still a thing. Unfortunately for the Hyperscan, since it was a poorly performing game console on the market, and since Spider-Man was only a Toys R Us exclusive, those two things put into play the game becoming a rare title later down the line. Now, I'm sure some of you may be wondering, if at all, are there any game recommendations that I personally recommend somebody playing for the Hyperscan? And my answer is no. In fact, I would be willing to argue that the Hyperscan itself is not a console to purchase to play for fun. The Hyperscan, in my opinion, is only worth purchasing if you're a game collector that likes to have as many consoles as possible, likes to complete as many sets as possible, or just happen to be somebody that happens to have a nostalgia trip for 2006 to 07. Other than those factors, I unfortunately cannot think of any good reason as to why someone should go out and purchase a Hyperscan itself. Now, usually when it comes to recommending games and consoles and such, usually I have the idea and I have the belief that on each video game console ever made, there's usually at least one game on the console that is worth playing. However, when it comes to the Hyperscan's case, I cannot say that belief applies to when it comes to the Hyperscan's library. There's nothing worth playing, there's nothing worth checking out, it's just a system that exists, and for good reason, it failed. Alright, and that concludes my collector's and buyer's guide for the Hyperscan. What do you guys think? Is this a console that you guys would want to collect for despite all of its problems? Feel free to comment in the comment section down below. Did you guys enjoy the video? Please give this video a like. Helps boost the video up in the YouTube algorithm so more viewers just like you and game collectors can find videos just like this. And feel free to subscribe so you can watch more game collecting content and follow some of my opinions when it comes to game related topics. Hope you guys did enjoy the video, and I'll be seeing you guys next time.